Captain Mira Osaki paused mid-stride as her handheld scanner lit up with urgent red. "Captain," Lieutenant Cade's voice crackled in her earpiece, breathless, "they're here." Sensors confirm Kareth Dominion warships entering the system. Myra's grip on the cold railing of Earth's orbital station tightened. This was what they'd spent years preparing for. "Numbers?" she asked, forcing her voice to remain steady. "Hundreds," Cade replied. "And accelerating toward Mars. They'll reach inner orbit in 2 hours." Mira allowed a slow, measured breath. Outside the viewport, stars glimmered, deceptively tranquil. Deep beneath them, Earth and her scattered colonies thought they were protected by an aging fleet too small to matter. They didn't know what lurked in the dark, fleets built in silence for decades, waiting for this very moment. "Patch me through to command," Mira ordered as she spun and strode toward her shuttle. Cade hesitated. "Command was decommissioned last week." Mira suppressed a bitter laugh. Of course it had been. They'd had to dismantle the public face of Earth's defenses to maintain the charade. The real war machines were hidden where prying eyes couldn't see. "Patch me into Valkyrie Dawn," she said. "Yes, ma'am." Her shuttle hatch hissed open as she hurried aboard. Her crew was already waiting, harnessing in, faces tense. The hum of the drive filled the cabin like a held breath. Alma, the engineering chief, glanced up as Mira secured her straps. "We're ready to jump as soon as you give the word." "Do it," Mira answered, leaning forward as if she could will them there faster. The stars outside warped into streaks of light as the shuttle slipped into faster-than-light. A single thought kept Mira grounded: Kareth thought Earth was an easy target. They were about to learn otherwise. The jump lasted minutes. When they emerged, the battered hull of Valkyrie Dawn filled the viewport, her true home. "Captain on deck," Cade announced as Mira strode across the bridge. "At ease," she replied. Her chair welcomed her like an old friend, the battered leather molded by years of tense briefings and quiet vigils. "Where do we stand?" she asked, fingers already dancing across her console. Chiyu, tactical officer, glanced up. "All systems green. Weapons hot, engines at full charge. Hidden Starfleets awaiting your signal." Mira nodded. Beyond the tactical screen lay the real secret of humanity's defense, dozens of concealed fleets scattered in nebular hideouts and hollowed moons. Every one of them ready. "Display live feed," she ordered. A map of the inner solar system bloomed into view, red pips of Kareth's scouts fanning out like blood across a sheet of white. Vrek Taken's warships would arrive expecting a quick slaughter. Earth had spent a century convincing them of its weakness. Cade spoke up, voice taut. "Captain, recon shows their long-range guns are calibrated for soft targets. Civilian habitats. They mean to break morale in one strike." Mira felt her jaw tighten. Of course they would. Alma broke the tense silence. "Let them come." Mira looked around at her crew, determined, exhausted, brave. Every face reflected years of drills and hushed fears that today might come. And it had. "Send the go signal to all fleets," Mira commanded, voice low but unyielding. "Begin wake-up protocols. Activate hammerhead formation." Chiyu hesitated, hands hovering over her console. "You sure, Captain?" "Once we light them up, there's no going back to the shadows." "There's no going back anyway," Mira replied. "Earth can't hide forever." The words felt heavy, but right. Chiyu nodded. Transmitting. A heartbeat later, the tactical screen filled with green pips as 100 human warships powered up across the system. Mira imagined them like sleeping giants stirring at last, proud hulls bearing the Titan-class insignia that Kareth's scouts had never spotted. Dozens of them, kept secret in asteroid cradles and icy moons, waiting for this one order. She glanced at Cade. "Raise Earth command on tight beam." Cade quickly tapped at his station. Channel open. The face of Admiral Chen, gray-haired and steely-eyed, appeared. "Mira," he said. "Is it time?" "Yes, sir." Myra's hands were steady. "We'll intercept at Mars and draw them into the shadow of the moons. Once they're committed, the hidden fleets will flank and cut them off. Earth will stand." Chen's lips twitched into the ghost of a smile. "Do what you were trained to do, Captain." The feed cut. Mira exhaled slowly. Every second mattered. "Valkyrie Dawn to all ships," she spoke, transmitting on fleet-wide comms. "We've been patient long enough. The Kareth thought we were powerless. Let's show them what they overlooked. Humanity never forgot how to fight." The bridge was dead silent for one perfect moment. Then Chiyu grinned. "Time to hunt." And Mira felt it too, a surge of fierce purpose as engines roared and Valkyrie Dawn leapt into the dark, the first to awaken a sleeping armada. Vrektaken stood at the observation window of his flagship Karathsol, hands clasped behind his back, a dark silhouette against the swirling colors of the inner system. The Kareth Dominion had crushed countless worlds, this one would be no different. "Admiral," his second-in-command said quietly, bowing her horned head. "Scouts report minimal orbital defenses. Earth is virtually exposed." Vrek allowed himself a rare smile. "As predicted," he replied. "Their treaties left them weak. Begin advance at full speed. Deploy the strike teams. Burn their stations. Let fear do the work." "Yes, Admiral." The bridge hummed with disciplined activity. Orders were relayed, and the Kareth fleet surged toward the blue world like a blade slicing into ripe fruit. Yet beneath Vrek's confidence, a flicker of unease pressed at him. Something about Earth's silence, its empty perimeter, felt too deliberate. He dismissed the thought, humans had never shown tactical brilliance before. They would not begin today. On the Valkyrie Dawn, Mirasaki's eyes tracked every new contact as Kareth warships fanned out toward Mars. "Enemy scouts are closing," Chiyu called out, fingers flicking across her console. "Range, 2 million kilometers and shrinking fast." "Hold formation," Mira ordered calmly. "Let them come deeper." Behind them, hidden across lunar craters and asteroid belts, humanity's secret fleets remained dark. Every ship powered down to bare minimums, masking their heat signatures. Cade was tense in his chair. If they see one anomaly, they'll call in their reinforcements. Mira gave him a short nod. "That's why we wait. Timing is everything." A tense silence settled over the bridge as the Kareth scouts slipped past distant moons, blissfully unaware that behind every jagged surface lurked railgun batteries and long-range frigates. Alma spoke up from engineering, voice hushed as if she might be heard across space. "Reactors stable at 1/4 power. Engines spun up and ready." "Good," Mira replied. A second passed. Another. Then Chiyu broke the silence, voice taut. "Scouts are entering Mars orbit." Myra's hands hovered over the fleet-wide channel switch. "On my mark," she murmured. Vrektaken felt the familiar thrill as his scouts peeled away toward the inner worlds, their plasma drives glowing like angry embers against the dark. "Earth is undefended," his tactical officer said with satisfaction. "Proceed," Vrek instructed. "No mercy." He turned back to the window. That was when the first burst of light flared near Mars. "Mark," Mira ordered. Chiyu's fingers danced across the console. "Transmitting," she confirmed. And all at once, humanity's hidden starships powered to life like giants stirring in their dens. Engines flared. Shields shimmered. Weapon arrays pivoted and locked. The lead Kareth scouts never saw it coming, bursts of railgun fire stitched across their hulls before they could veer away. Ships broke into spinning debris under concentrated volleys. First wave destroyed, Chiu reported, eyes gleaming. Move, Mira said, heart pounding. Push the fleet in. Vrex stared as the tactical display blossomed with contacts, dozens, then scores, then more. Where did those come from? He hissed. Admiral, his second warned, our scouts are gone. Vrex's hands tightened. Advance the main fleet. Crush them before they regroup. On Valkyrie Dawn, the bridge was alive with light and voices. Enemy fleet bearing toward Mars, Kate announced. They're going to push straight through. Mira rose, hands clasped behind her back. Exactly as we hoped. Chiu glanced up. We still need to draw them deeper, into the kill zone. Then let's bait them, Mira decided. Break formation into 2 groups. Signal captains Ree and Corbin to feint toward the moons. Make them chase. Chiu grinned and relayed the orders. Vrex studied the tactical overlay with a hunter's focus. 2 human formations peeling away toward Phobos and Deimos, retreating. Pursue, he barked. Do not give them time to regroup. A chorus of acknowledgments followed as his ships surged ahead. And the moment they crossed the shadow of Mars, Mira gave the order. Spring the trap. Deep in the craters of the Martian moons, dozens of humanity's heaviest warships awoke, reactor cores glowing white-hot as they powered up. Now, Mira commanded. Valkyrie Dawn led the charge, its prow glowing with railgun fire as it plunged into Kareth ranks. Vrex's eyes narrowed as his fleet's forward elements disappeared in a blaze of silent light. Divert reserves, he ordered, voice icy. His second hesitated. Admiral, they're everywhere. And they were. With a coordinated burst of precision fire, Earth's hidden fleets cut across the Kareth formation like knives. Plasma volleys exchanged at close range, illuminated holes in crews, too close to dodge, too fast to counter. A Kareth destroyer took a direct hit, its spine shattered as it broke apart. A human frigate was raked across the flank by return fire, its crew fought on, bloodied but unyielding. Chiu's hands were steady as she called off hits. 2 enemy cruisers disabled. Starboard wing pushing through their flank. Mira allowed herself the briefest nod. Keep up pressure. Don't give them room to breathe. A shudder ran through Valkyrie Dawn as Kareth guns found their range. Sparks rained from overhead panels. Damage? Mira snapped. Alma's voice was clear despite the tremors. Minor hull breaches. Shields at 60%. Nothing we can't handle. Mira gritted her teeth. Earth had spent years preparing for this fight. Now they would make every second count. Mira Osaki gripped the armrests of her chair as Valkyrie Dawn surged deeper into the melee. The Kareth formation was breaking, splintering into clumps of cruisers and frigates that could barely coordinate under the unexpected onslaught. Enemy flagship identified, Chiu called, voice sharp. Karathsol, bearing 240. Distance, 100,000 kilometers in closing. Myra's heart quickened. Vrek taken himself. Finally, face to face. Alma, she said, reroute power to the bow railguns. Prepare a focused barrage. Already on it, Alma replied, hands moving deftly across her console. Kate glanced up. If we take him out, their morale collapses. Exactly, Mira replied. We end this before they recover. The deck thrummed as engineering fed energy into the capacitors. On screen, Kareth warships wove a defensive screen around their flagship. It wasn't going to be an easy shot. New contacts, Chiu warned. Enemy reinforcements moving in from behind Mars. Looks like they called up everything they had left. Mira held her breath for a heartbeat. That was what they'd been waiting for. Transmit to fleet, she ordered calmly. Execute Hammerhead Phase 2. Far across the system, more ships emerged from the darkness, not the quick-strike frigates or light cruisers that had been skirmishing until now, but colossal Titan-class warships built in secret during Earth's long decades of peace. Dozens of them. Each one larger than a Kareth carrier, every one bristling with long-range cannons and hulls reinforced to survive whatever the Dominion could throw. And they were coming in fast. Vrek Taken watched his tactical feet as new contacts glowed like small suns. "What is this?" he growled. "Admiral," his sensor chief stammered, massive signatures appearing, "warships too big for our records." Vrek stared, pulse quickening despite his training. So this was Earth's secret, all those centuries of feigned weakness to hide an armada built for revenge. "Reroute all fire," he barked. "Hold formation. Crush them." "Titan fleet on approach," Chiyu called. Mira felt a swell of pride as she watched them surge into the fight, slow, unstoppable giants that dwarfed anything Earth had ever officially built. "Time to strike," she ordered. "Railguns at full charge?" Alma nodded. "Locked and primed." "On my mark," Mira whispered. The Valkyrie Dawn and its escort cruisers knifed forward through a storm of debris and stray plasma. Enemy batteries lashed back, but Earth's hulls had been built for this. Mira kept her gaze locked on Vrek's flagship as they closed the gap. "Mark," she commanded. The entire front of Valkyrie Dawn glowed with caged light for a single breath. Then it roared. A torrent of hyper-accelerated slugs screamed across the void, tearing into the Kareth defensive screen. Shields shattered, hulls split, secondary explosions flaring in harsh white light. "Direct hits," Chiyu reported. "They're breaking ranks." "Good," Mira replied, hands tight. "Keep pressing." Vrek Taken's bridge shuddered as incoming fire found its mark. Sparks burst from overhead conduits as alarms wailed. "Admiral, we can't hold this position," one of his officers urged. Requesting permission to jump to long range. Vrek's hands clenched behind his back. Retreat was a concept foreign to him, but even pride had its limits. "Prepare jump," he growled. But Mira had anticipated that too. "Chiyu," she said softly. "Activate the EMP arrays." Chiyu's hands flew across her controls, sending the signal to every Titan nearby. In unison, Earth's capital ships discharged dense waves of electromagnetic pulses across the engagement zone. The Kareth fleet's jump engines flickered and failed under the barrage. Vrek stared at his readouts in disbelief as one after another of his drives sputtered and died. "Admiral," someone said, voice trembling, "our jump systems are offline." Vrek felt a slow, cold knot form in his chest. "Enemy jump drives disabled," Chiyu reported with grim satisfaction. Mira allowed herself a tight smile. "That's our window." Cade leaned toward her. "Do we offer terms?" Mira thought for a moment. "Open a channel," she decided. The main screen flashed as Vrek's stern face appeared. Blood trickled down one temple, his uniform was scorched. "Vrek Taken," Mira began evenly, "this is Captain Mira Osaki of the Valkyrie Dawn. Surrender your fleet and power down all weapons." Vrek's eyes burned with a mixture of hate and grudging respect. "You dare demand my surrender?" "You're trapped," Mira replied, voice like steel. "Your jump drives are offline, your ships are crumbling, and my Titan fleets will cut you to pieces. Surrender, and we'll let your people live." There was a long pause. Vrek's gaze shifted, perhaps weighing the lives of his crew against his pride. "You fought well," he finally said. And then the screen went dark. Chiyu checked her readouts. Enemy fleet is standing down. Weapons going cold. A breath Mira hadn't known she was holding eased from her lungs. "Good," she said quietly. "We'll take them into custody." Around her, The bridge crew broke into muted cheers, tired but victorious. Mira leaned back in her chair, hands trembling with the surge of adrenaline and relief. Humanity had been underestimated for too long. And today, they'd proven just what they could do. Outside, the Starfleets began forming into loose formation around the shattered Karath Armada. The fight was over, but the stars were forever changed, forever marked by the arrival of Earth's hidden strength. Mira stared at the view one last time before closing her eyes. And she allowed herself one small, satisfied thought. Let them remember this day. Let them remember who they thought was an easy target. The bridge of Valkyrie Dawn was unusually quiet, save for the steady hum of life support systems and the distant crackle of repair crews working deep within the hull. Mira stared at the main screen, where the shattered Karath fleet hung in space like a defeated Leviathan, its wounded ships ringed by Earth's Starfleets. "Captain," Chiyu called gently, breaking the silence. "Boarding parties report most of their crews surrendering without resistance." Mira gave a slow nod. "And Vrek?" "Alive," Chiyu replied. "He's under guard in their main flagship's brig." A breath Mira hadn't realized she was holding eased from her chest. Finally. "Keep him secure," she ordered. "And double-check jump containment. I don't want surprises." "Yes, ma'am." Mira rose and moved to the viewport, hands clasped behind her back as she gazed at the wounded enemy flotilla. They had once thought Earth an easy conquest. They had been so sure of their dominance that they hadn't considered humanity might strike back. That belief had cost them everything. Behind her, Alma and Kate exchanged glances, sensing the weight on her shoulders. "You did it," Alma offered. "Earth is safe. Our fleet's held." Mira gave a small smile but kept her eyes on the stars. "We held this time. That's only part of it." Kate frowned. "What are you thinking?" "That the fight doesn't end here," Mira answered. "There are other fleets, other admirals like Vrek who won't take this defeat lightly." Alma stepped closer. "That's why we built these ships, Captain. They thought we'd given up. Let them come, we'll be ready." That was the spirit that had sustained them all these years, and hearing it aloud lightened Myra's heart. "You're right," she said, turning to face them. "And today proved we were right to prepare." As repair teams patched burns and welded cracks across Valkyrie Dawn, Mira took a shuttle to the Karath flagship. The battered corridors smelled of scorched metal and ozone. Guards saluted as she passed, stepping aside without a word. In the brig, Vrek Taken sat on a simple bench, hands shackled, his once imposing armor stripped to a plain, soot-streaked uniform. When he saw Mira, his expression was unreadable. "You," he said flatly. "Yes," she replied. "Me?" He studied her face, as if searching for some sign of weakness. "Your people fight like ghosts. None of this was in our intelligence." Mira kept her gaze steady. "That was the point. You expected an easy victory." "I did," Vrek conceded. "That was my mistake." There was a grudging respect in his voice, an honesty born of defeat. Mira gestured to the empty seat across the cell. "May I?" He gave a curt nod. She sat, hands resting lightly in her lap. "Your fleets will be treated fairly," she said. "Your wounded will receive aid. But you'll stay under guard until Earth decides your fate." Vrek let out a slow breath. "And what of my fate, Captain? Am I a bargaining chip or a trophy?" Mira tilted her head. "Neither. But you'll answer for what you've done. You brought this fight to our doorstep." He was silent for a long moment. "And you meant it," he replied. "You were more prepared than I ever imagined." Mira felt a strange sense of finality at that admission. When she returned to the Valkyrie Dawn, the bridge had shifted into a subdued rhythm of post-battle routine. Status updates scrolled across displays as her crew worked tirelessly to prepare for what came next. Captain, Chiu reported, Admiral Chen is requesting a secure channel. Mira nodded. Put him through. The gray-haired admiral's face appeared, tired but triumphant. You kept them at bay, he said. Earth is proud. Earth deserves most of the credit, Mira replied. We had decades to plan. Chen gave a short, satisfied laugh. And decades well spent. Still, this was only one wave. Kareth won't overlook this defeat. That, Mira agreed, is exactly why we can't stand down. Chen's expression grew serious. That's why I'm transferring you to Fleet Command, he said. Your experience will be invaluable. Mira felt a rush of surprise, then resolve. I'll do whatever Earth needs. Good, he replied. We'll prepare a council with all captains once the prisoners are secured. The feed cut, leaving Mira facing her reflection in the darkened screen. Fleet Command, Chiu said behind her. Sounds like a big responsibility. Mira smiled faintly. That's what we signed up for. Alma crossed her arms, leaning against the console. You earned it. But that doesn't mean you can't celebrate tonight. Mira raised a brow. And you? Alma chuckled. I plan to. Even you deserve a drink after this. Cade grinned, rubbing the back of his neck. We did stop an invasion. That's gotta count for something. Mira felt her stern demeanor soften as her crew bantered. It had been too long since they'd had reason to smile. You're right, she said, voice lighter. Let's make sure our prisoners are secure and the ship's stable. Then we'll celebrate properly. The hours passed in a measured rhythm of recovery. Damage reports were compiled, rescue teams dispatched, and the surviving Kareth ships disabled under careful watch. When Mira finally sat back in her chair, exhaustion and relief washing over her, the stars beyond the viewport no longer felt menacing. Captain, Chiu said softly, for what it's worth. I'm glad you were leading us. Mira glanced up. And I'm glad you followed, she replied. That was the real victory, she realized, not just defeating an enemy, but standing together when the time came. And as long as they kept doing that, Earth would never truly be an easy target again.